Clear code. How to write code that is easy to read. This article is to follow up to a tweet that I made on how to deal with poor ability to remember implementation. It may seem funny to you, but I do actually tend to forget why I write shortly after writing it. First, we will discuss why you may want to write more reliable code as opposed to consign code. Afterward, we look at the following strategy how to do with it. Variable class function naming, helper function code comment, enormous dictionaries, sealed classes, actor package, organization, and naming. Does efficiency come from fewer keystroke? I recall a junior developer thinking this short or abbreviated name for identifier. Basically, any code construct as a developer are allowed to name very more efficient. My logic was simple. If it take more less time to write, then and I can get job done faster. This logic would make me sense of the following things are true. Uh, or or I someone else would never have read or fix what I wrote in the past. I did not often forget what a variable or several variable and was reading function. I did not occasionally have to write some code which truly was complex and obscure. I could rename ridiculous and obscure external library function classes and properties to something more sensible. The point is that for me, I find few situations where being concise actually saves time. Furthermore, IDs have this useful feature called code completion, which save most of the keystroke anyways. You may not feel the same way, but that is perfect. Okay, take whatever works for you in this article and throw away the rest. I will now share what I do. My code easier for myself and other to read. The code example I use with Kotlin. One of the point I make should be applicable to most platform language. How to name classes and variable and function. I like add two important thing to know when learning how to name software entities. The term software entities refer to when classes construct object, variable values, references pointer, function, method, algorithm, commands, interface, protocol, abstraction. Essentially anything which programmer decide to have name. How destructive should we name be? My goal was naming software entities. The name should reduce any confusion about what software entity does. The detail of how it does something are usually necessary. The construct of software entity, particularly at the level of function or variable, is important. Something may require more or less detail depending on the construct. Let's just consider the example get format dated data string. The problem on the production application I am currently working on as of writing this frequently require transforming dates to and from different format. In that context, I absolutely use something like example 30 this because example 1 is very ambiguous for our project requirement. Another option might be change the parameter name in the example 2 or something like. While I do suggest you to consistent in your approach in a given code base, feel free to experiment with what other work for you. Is to add much information as is necessary to clear up ambiguity. If I was writing a one of program that only ever convert one format to another, then I one is by adding more information than is necessary, not what I am advocating. The more it does, the more harder it is to name. If you find yourself trouble naming something, it is most often done because it does too many things that are not concentrated. The degree to which software entities are conceptually related is known as cohesion. The degree to which software entities are related or unrelated should be inform you on how they should be grouped or separated. Thus, process can be perspective, which I will try to explain why. Suppose for entities store user in cloud, store user store message, edit user UI. The first perspective you can consider the real world information which these entities are concerned with. From that perspective, we can see that store user in cloud, store user and edit user UI are the same model information a user. However, there is another perspective that we must keep in mind, particularly when designing graphical user interface program. Every GUI program can be broken down into three principal layer: user interface, Logic, commonly referred to things like controller, printer, model, data storage and access or state itself depending on. We want that there this three layer approach is generalization which is frequently insufficient. In any case, from the perspective storage has more in common with other storage entities than the edit user UI. However you choose to apply separation, you will know it is working a few software entities because how to use helper function particularly when combined with good function name in practice can generally improve readability of your code. Helper functions are also an opportunity to apply our core principle of software architecture, separation of a concern. How to create Sudoku puzzle. We will now look at a particular practical example of demonstrate extensive use of helper function. Let's try to imagine how much harder this code would be to follow if everything was in a single generating function. In the past, I worked on a large but cohesive part of the program, Sudoku builder, which uses graph data structure and algorithm. Even if you are not familiar with Sudoku or a graph DSA, I believe you will be able to follow the main point. You can find the full source code here. You can break the process of generating plain Sudoku puzzle into 5 steps. First, creating nodes of the puzzle representing the title, creating the edge of the puzzle, as in the case another word between the tiles, and the row column or subgrid. Seeding some values to the action by solving faster, solving the puzzle, unsolving certain number of tiles so that game is actually playable by user. I used something similar to build a pattern to represent this step in the function I created the puzzle. All the ideas of nodes or edge are technical definition within graph theory. This code clearly reflects the five-step ideas. We will not look at the entire code video, but I want to highlight how helper function contribute down the logic and to promote readability. To summarize the process, the helper function provide two benefit. They are stand in a block of code which do something. The block of code destructive name. A certain amount of trial and error are necessary to decide whether something should be kept in a function or delegated to a function. How to use code command. My personal preference to code command is that they have two primary uses. The first is that I am about to write what a complex one. The second usage is much simpler. Clear up and clear up. Yeah. How to use code commands. My personal preference on code command is that they have two primary uses. The first is that where I have to do about to write a complex function. The second use is simpler, clear up the confusion about the line and black the code. How to use command to design a function. When I come to a cross function which I expected to be difficult to write, I will describe what the function does using either plain language or pseudocode. How I do this change over the year. Grace you find what work for you. In action for previous section, I actually omitted the code comment. The amount of detail I added to this comment depend on the. If I am writing in a team, I will try to keep much shorter than what you see above. Only what I feel necessary. Example of my personal link project that I expected to share with others, which is why I include my decision making process on this type of representative proposal. For fans of test-driven development, you might try writing your pseudocode step algorithm before writing the test. They allow you to design unit at a higher level of abstraction before writing the implementation. The time spent designing a higher level of abstraction can lot of time on how to use inline code comment effectively. There are two primary situations where I write inline comment when I feel that the purpose of line or block of code will not be clear myself and once reading when I have to call some random and fully name library function which I have to do over control. By far most complex to call algorithm in my program is solver algorithm which it is fact so long that I only post a snippet of here. This was unnecessary. I would frequently forget what I in the variable was in the middle of reading through the giant algorithm. Another case where I had an inline comment is when I had to explain or remind myself how the code which I never control over. For example, the infamous Lava calendar API use zero based indexing for month. This is arguably really stupid or of a standard January when I cannot share the code with you. It's proportionally but sufficient to say that I have comment in my team code base to explain random statement over the page. How to use innovation dictionaries. There are other names of for this kind of code constructor, but these are the two I familiar with. Suppose you have restricted limit size value. Well, I need to be a limit the number of tiles that we include in Sudoku, the size of the puzzle, for nature, the difficulty of the puzzle, through which extensive thing I'd arrive at the following values of the modifier. These values are used to be various places and the logic must change the difficulty. Sometimes you do not even need to have own readily associated with. I used to different environment represent different following. A good principle in designing any team is that where fewer moving parts and have fewer things that can be placing restriction on value and type giving them good name not only make code easier to read, it it can protect it from how to organize and name package and folder direction in no guide on code ledger would be complete without a discussion package if the platform or language of solution does not use term sure I'm in folder or directory instead which I have changed my opinion on several times and old project to common approach which package organization or package are package for feature how to package by layer is first and worst system I ever used. I usually follow some architecture pattern like MBC MPP. Take MBC example. I just want to get somewhere as my father is saying very loudly to take the first row is that assume that every class or function fits comfortably in your three layer. This is a unique practice. I also find the approach in the least legible as the top level tells you only most general details about what to expect inside each package. The approach is usually improved upon the adding of more layer to the for specific UI model API repository. Common. The work reasonably well and code base will all develop on how to package by feature. Package by feature has a non flows but is generally easier to read and navigate. This is again assuming that you giving package name. The first feature to sky would but I would generally define it as a screen page or screen page that define primary piece of functionality. For a social we might visit the core problem with package of by feature is opposite of package by layer. There will almost always of software entities where you use multiple features. There are two solution problem. The first would be duplicate in a feature. Believe it or not, duplicating software entities can be incredibly useful to enterprise setting or subset. This is not something I would recommend to generally how to hybrid package structure. The solution of generally come to developer is like I to call the hybrid approach. I very simple, flexible, and should cover most of the requirement. Now take this example to say I am trying to convey general idea. Anything which feature specific goes into feature package. Anything which is shared across separate packages. Again, what define a layer of a concept begin so that it does not follow conversion variety. Think critically about parent to control begin with so do just follow convention blindly think correctly closing thought most of the preferences on the code liability and style have come from a great deal of trying different approaches. Sometimes these were approaches I saw other use and some of them came out naturally. If you are able to put yourself in position of someone else less familiar with the code of, you will have an easier time of making your code read like a book. Thank you so much. We will meet you tomorrow. Already time is gone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.